Join me as we take the journey of making my famous macaroni and cheese. Alright, good morning. This is Cooking with Ravi, and today we are making my macaroni and cheese. So first we're going to start off with the noodles just to make sure that they're done and ready to go for when the cheese sauce is ready. So what do I do with my noodles? Well, first of all, I do cook them in chicken broth, okay? Chicken broth or chicken stock. Today I have chicken broth available, so that is what we're using. So I like to use an 8-quart pot. And make sure we're going to get that up to a boil. So as we're waiting for that to boil, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in it, just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. There you go. So we're going to cover and let that come to a boil. Okay, so while we are waiting for this to boil, we're going to go ahead and start getting together our roux so that we can start getting our cheese sauce together. All right. So again, we're boiling this water on high, and then we're going to add our noodles. But until then, we're going to get together our ingredients so we can start making the roux and get the cheese sauce ready. So right now, I'm not turning on any heat. I'm just preparing the ingredients for the roux. So you can use any kind of fat. I like to use the butter Crisco. All right, give it some flavor. I measure with my heart, y'all. I measure with my heart. So I just kind of dump some stuff in and see what it takes. All right. So we're going to do a slab of that. And let's do another kerplunk and a kerplunk. All right. I'm making a lot of noodles, so we're going to need a pretty hefty size of roux to be the base of the cheese sauce. All right. You know what? One more for good measure. All right, so again, right now the stove is not on. I'm just getting it ready for when I need to start the roux. I don't want to start the roux too early until I'm ready to start the cheese sauce because I do not want the roux to burn, right? I don't want it to overcook. So right now I'm just preparing the ingredients while I'm waiting for at least the water to come to a boil. Once the water starts coming to a boil and I put the noodles in there, then I'll start preparing the roux and the cheese sauce, all right? So also with the roux, we have some flour. It's off to the side, so I can sprinkle it in after the butter starts to melt or the Crisco starts to melt. The other things I'm doing while waiting for the chicken stock to start boiling for the noodles after getting the roux ingredients prepared is I'm going ahead and get my colander, and I'm going to put this in the sink so it's ready for me when the noodles are ready. So the sink is already cleared out. I just like to stick it in here, and that way I can just pour the pot. I can just pour the pot of noodles into the colander so that it is ready to go. So I don't have to go searching for it when it's done. Let's talk about the cheeses that I'm going to be using for this particular macaroni. Okay, so as you can see, I have an entire array of cheese. I am not sponsored by this brand. It's just a brand that I've been using for years. The oil to milk ratio is very high, very little oil. So when you're cooking it, you don't end up with that big bloodbath of grease at the top of the macaroni. So I like using this brand because of that. But if they do want to give me a deal someday, Sargento, I'm talking to you. All right, I use this for every time I make macaroni and cheese. This is the only brand that I use. I like using this brand not just for that, but also because of all the different options that we have that come in a shredded form. Copper tunnel, I'm not shredding anything else, okay? So I do buy everything pre-shredded, all right? And once they don't come shredded, I buy them sliced, all right? I can work easier with a slice than with a full brick of cheese. This time around, what are some of the cheeses I'm using? I change it up all the time depending on my mood, okay? So this time I'm using mild cheddar and sharp cheddar, okay? I'm using cheddar jack Then I'm using the 4-cheese Mexican, aged Gouda, and the 6-cheese Italian mix. Okay, so that is what so those are the ones I'm making. Sometimes I add other sometimes I add Munster or other things in there. But today we're just going to kind of stick with this. The 6-cheese Italian has a bit of everything in it, so that's why I feel comfortable using that. But again, I'm just trying to keep it simple. This is for a family dinner of about 80 plus people. All right. So it looks like our stock is getting close to wanting to boil. All right. And as we prepare for that, I'm going to go ahead and get our pot ready to start with the cheese sauce. So now we have the pot ready for the cheese, and we're going to go ahead and start getting this roux together. So we're going to start on low heat. Okay. And we're going to let this start to melt a little bit. All right. Meanwhile, we're still waiting for the chicken broth to start boiling so that we can start cooking the noodles. All right. With that being said, I now have a boil. So what do we have here? How much noodles am I going to make? Well, it's going to be a lot of people coming, right? So right now this is a box of 2 pounds of Barilla. All right. But of course, that's not going to be enough. So I need my box of 1 pound Barilla that I set down somewhere. All right. Here's the other one. So I already have the oil in here. So now we're just going to go ahead and let that boil. Hey Google, set timer for 8 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and let that boil for about 8 minutes. And we're going to stir periodically to make sure that we do not have a clump of noodles in here. Okay? So you got to make sure you don't have a clump of noodles. So now the noodles are boiling ferociously. All right. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I have a bag down here for all my trash, so I'm not going back and forth to the trash can. It makes it easier for me to be more efficient with my time. So I keep a little baggie down here, and I put all my scraps in there until I'm ready to take it over to a trash bag. All right. So you don't want to cook the noodles all the way because the noodles are going to finish cooking in the oven. So that way you don't get like super mushy noodles. Okay. So I'll get this 1 more minute. Hey Google, set timer for 1 minute. All right, I set timers because I always forget. Hey Google, set timer for 1 minute. Okay, one of them picked it up. One of them will ring in a minute. All right, so my lard is now melted for the roux, and we're going to go ahead and get my whisk. This looks like it's about ready to go. So let me go ahead and test with it. Hey Google, off.
Sorry, power control is not supported yet.
Hey Google, turn off all timers. Yeah,
okay,
that's good.
I'm stopping any alarms and timers that are ringing on your smartphone devices.
All right. Didn't even have a chance to go start the roux yet, but just, hey Google, turn off all alarms. Thank you. All right. So noodles are ready to be dumped out. They can sit there for another second, but not for too long because I need to get the pans ready. So I am going to set out the pans, and there should be enough for 4 half pans and a quarter. Okay.
Okay, so of course this is the time my husband decides he wants to start talking to me while I'm getting ready to dump the noodles out into the sink. So remember, I already put the colander in the sink, so I'm just going to transport the pot over to the sink, dump all the noodles into the colander in order to get the water out and strain the water.
So make sure that you also oil your pans. So what I like to use to oil my pans is just a little bit of olive oil for these pans. I just drip, oopsie, a little bit. into each one. All I'm going to do is I just take the oil brush and I just move it around. I mean, you guys know what to do, but just in case, I'm just showing you. All right.
Alright, now that the pans are oiled, we're going to go ahead and take the strained noodles and separate them into all of the pans. So for this one, I'm using 4 half pans and 1/4 pan. And what you're going to see is me moving back and forth and making sure that all of the pans have an equal amount so that the servings will be even and that the cheese sauce will be distributed evenly.
All right, the noodles are ready to go. We just have to worry about now getting that cheese sauce together. So as I said, we're going to work on the roux. The lard is already melted. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and preheat our oven. So right now the noodles were cooked in chicken broth. That gives the noodles a flavor. And we're going to start with the roux. And we're going to have to speed up because I am running out of time. Okay. So we're just going to sprinkle a little bit into the roux, just a little bit of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. All right. And we are going to whisk it up.
Alright, so this process took a little bit of time, took me about 10 minutes to get it to where I needed it. I also discovered that it wasn't enough lard to make enough roux for all the cheese I was using, so I added some more lard to make sure I had enough roux to compensate for all of the cheese sauce that I was going to need for this meal. So again, I measure with my heart, not with measurements. So I was going back and forth, making sure that it was getting to the right consistency. What you really want is to make sure it gets thickened up. So the look you see on my face is now my son is coming in with an attitude about something while I'm trying to transfer the roux into the pot for the cheese sauce.
So we just added the roux to the pot, and now we're going to start adding some of the extras. So I start off with a little bit of evaporated milk. All right. And we're going to finish getting this roux mixture to thicken. All right. So we just do a dash of the evaporated milk, not too much because it is a little bit sweet. And I don't like my mac and cheese that sweet, but it is a very good foundation. It's a very good foundation for your food. All right. Or for your sauce. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue to let this thicken just a little bit now that we're getting somewhere. All right. So the other things that I use, all right, is half and half. All right, this builds to the base of my sauce. So I use half and half to build to the base of my sauce. Okay. And we're going to keep, be up a little bit higher now. All right. And we're going to keep the stirring going. And then we're going to add half and half. This is a quart. We're going to do about half of that. All right. And again, I had everything sitting out at room temperature for a little while. So it's going to start contrast when this hits the roux. It's important to have a good base before you start putting the cheese in. All right, that way your cheese won't burn. And half, we will add some whole milk, but I want this to warm up a little bit more before I add the milk. So I like to add things in stages, not add everything at once to make sure that everything is mixed into the correct consistency before I add anything else to it. So while this is starting to cook, right, this is some time to start adding some of these seasonings to it. Okay. I keep it very, very simple. You don't want to over season your mac and cheese, especially if we're just making a classic mac and cheese. All right. Let the cheese be the star. Let the cheese be the star. Okay. So you don't want to over season it, and you definitely don't want to add too much salt. So I don't typically add any more salt because cheese has enough salt in it. Okay. And I think that's where a lot of us go wrong. But a little bit of pepper here and there is absolutely fine. Okay. And since, again, we're dealing with a classic mac and cheese, because I'm making food for the masses, I'm not going to make it with too many different ingredients just because, you know, I'm going to have a mixed audience here. Oh, that is thickening up so nice, y'all. You see that? That is thickening up so nicely. Okay. This is a really good base. All right. It's really starting to thicken up, but we have to go fast because that flour is starting to congeal. So let's go ahead. You know what? Let's finish up the half and half. Let's finish up the half and half. Okay. So I definitely like using the half and half before I do the whole milk. You got to keep it moving. You got to keep it moving. Okay. Until you start getting everything mixed in there. There. Probably don't even need that too much. The whole milk is always just a backup for if things start to get too thick. And I needed to get saucier. Oopsie. All right. So the half and half is my primary source of milk. Okay. So we're gonna start with 3 bags of Gouda. Depending on what I'm making and how many cheeses I have, I buy in 3s or 4s. So everything you're going to see here that I purchased is going to be in 3s. I may not use all of everything. It just depends on how it goes. But oh, good. I love how there is no wax paper in between, so we can just kind of get that in there and slowly mix it in. It's nice and thin, so I do not keep it on medium heat. Do not get overzealous because you don't see anything happening. Trust me, it is warm enough to melt. Okay, it is warm enough to melt the cheese. Okay, there you go. That's 1 bag down.
For the next 20 minutes or so, we're just going to be adding all the cheeses and then thinning it out with the whole milk.
Okay, so we're going to thin this out just a little bit more, but I think we're going to be good, y'all. I think we're going to be good.
Now we're just going to take the shredded cheese and spread some into the pans with the noodles, making sure that we're still stirring the cheese sauce in between. Then we're going to take a little bit of salt and pepper, season it, while again we're stirring the cheese, and then we're going to mix everything together to make sure everything is even in the pans.
So one of the things you may be asking is, why so few noodles in there? The cheese sauce takes up so much space, y'all, that you don't need a whole bunch of noodles. All right, I like to add noodles with my cheese, not cheese with my noodles. Okay, maybe that's why people like mine. I am not stingy on the cheese at all. Okay, not one bit. No stingy cheese person here. I wasn't going to. I wasn't. But just a little bit.
If you're wondering what I'm using,
Just
it's adobo,
right?
of course.
Just a little bit. Okay. Just a little bit, y'all. I don't want to freak out the elders. All right. It's just a little bit. That's it. Done. Oh, this looks so good. All right. So let's get the milk stirred in here just a little bit more. All right. Yes. That's what the sauce looks like. Okay. So now is the fun part. Putting the cheese into the pans. All right. So why do I have 4 1/4 pans? All right. The 4 half pans are going to the event. The 1/4 pan is staying home for the husband. He likes mac and cheese. That's going to be his pan that he can eat on for a couple days. And yeah. All right, so this is where it's going to get messy, y'all. I have not figured out a way for this not to be messy. So you're going to see the cheese start dripping all over the place. I mean, I could ladle it out, but that's just one more dish I have to clean up. Okay, so we're just going to go for it. All right. So I just like to do a scoop. All right, it's a scoop. Okay, and it's a stir. So I go through and I do a dollop in each pan first to make sure all of the noodles are covered or coated. All right. I didn't say it was going to be pretty, did I? Nope. So let's go through and dollop some more.
So we're going to keep dolloping and stirring, and yes, I'm bumping into the camera, moving things out of the way, but you keep dolloping and stirring until all the noodles are covered and most of the cheese sauce is used. Just listen to that sound. Now it's time for the finishing touches. We take some of the sharp cheddar or mild cheddar shredded cheese and we just layer it on top. Just make sure you get everything coated. And then when you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and get the aluminum foil, cover it up, and put it into the oven. Now, somewhere along the way, I did realize that we're low on cheese sauce and I needed to make some more. So, of course, I got some more milk, added the rest of the cheese, and seasoned it, stirred it up, and continued the process of adding the shredded cheese and getting it into the oven. Now that we have 2 pans in the oven, it's time to finish up with the last 2 half pans and, of course, the quarter pan. So we continue to mix in the cheese sauce, stir it all up, and add the shredded cheese on top, cover it in the aluminum foil, and wait for the oven to be ready to finish baking them. And yes, the husband gets a special recipe with his favorite cheese on top. Okay, now it's time to check on the first set of pans and see if they're ready and swap them out for the other pans that need to be cooked. And it looks like it's ready, so let's go. And voila, here is one of the finished products. And as I finish up the process of cleaning and getting everything cooked, I want to thank you guys for sticking along for this crazy journey of interruptions, husbands talking, children having attitudes, and me just being me. Be sure to comment below what type of cheeses that you use in your macaroni and cheese, or what do you do differently than me. And if you can, make a video, post a picture, and let us see what you got. All right, until next time, toodles.